Ladies and gentlemen, you all made it through today. That is quite an accomplishment, especially today. There are things going on. There are helicopters going over my area where I live. I don't know what's going on, but things seem intense. I hope we don't have a lot of that here tonight, but hope we can relieve some tension. Welcome to Stone's Pursue Poetry,
Ah,
our feature
ah,
tonight.
ah,
Oh, I don't know what
froze.
that. There we go. Wait a sec. Something seems to have frozen. Oh, there we go. Okay, we are good to go. And our feature tonight is Mary Jennings, who is one of the best features in 2022, and now is coming back to read an excerpt from her mystery novel and as well as other new poetries. And I was like, how could Stone Soup be excited about a pulp novel in this day and age? Am I right, John? Am I right, Harry Tolland, aka the other crime
Pulp novels,
fiction
boy, that's
writer?
got to be horrible. My goodness.
Yeah, exactly. I thought you'd feel that way. I thought you would. But we are going to go to the open mic before she is up, and we do have one person who has to leave in a short while. And you never keep a person who's holding a birthday party for you waiting, or at least you really, really freaking shouldn't. Let's go now to Mr. Richard Spizak, and happy birthday, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm going to share a screen, hopefully. Okay, I sent my request. Okay, try again. There we go. Thank you, my friends. This is a little piece called The Mexican Mouse. The Mexican Mouse visited my house. He told tall tales as far as he could stretch. But do you know what he said would happen next? He dared all the poets and the girls and the boys, and they'll gather their verbs, their nouns, and such toys to construct an elaborate structure of whimsy to climb up on its roof and then slide down its tiny brick chimney. The Mexican Mouse, he found some cheese. It made him quite pleased. He marched right up to it, into his knees. He found cottage, mozzarella, and parmesan. It reminded him of the farm when he was little that he grew up on. The Mexican Mouse, he found a tiny horsey hidden, you say, and deep in the straw so as not to give himself away. But this little charger was just the right size for our friend, the Mexican Mouse, to saddle and ride. He rode around the kitchen, searching this way and that way. His tiny seed was lurching. Despite his tiny size, there was no great leap he wouldn't. From the floor to the kitchen counter in one great leap, then up to the cabinets to the very tippy top peak. From there he could survey the kitchen complete, the knife rack, the double sink, the fruit juicer. He may even climb down to it, but he'd never be a user. The first plan he hatched was to pry open the fridge. He had an idea if he could get off the ledge. He would slide right down to the handle and check for the release. He had designs on that Samsung that hid all the cheese. He would we could pry open that suction fit lock. He rummaged through his memory, but it seemed he was stuck. Then he noticed a can of WD-40 and thought of his sweet cousin Morty. Morty loved to disassemble locks. He knew every trick from the bottom to the top. He used the straw nozzle of that lubricating spray, and whatever came out extra, he'd use on his skates. He pushed and he shoved till that thin straw went in. He squirted that lubricant for a night and a day. It might have been longer, but he could never say. It bubbled and tumbled and rolled down the seam till little by little the little mouse got its dream. The fridge door swung open. It caught him by surprise. He blinked and he burbled, but what he saw was inside. He found a strand of coiled spaghetti. Just as if he knew he was ready, he looped into it with a spinning lariat and gauged just how high he'd have to toss it yet. He spotted a dangler off the side of the cheese plate, decided as an anchor it might work out just great. He tossed his loop, and it snagged some celery, which it seemed at first just downright neighborly. And as the Mexican Mouse climbed the sticky noodle, he thought he spotted some Austrian strudel. He glanced round the savory favors and wondered how best to summon the neighbors. He pushed that cheese plate over the ledge, made sure the plate caught at least a little smidge. It spun in the air and landed right on its bottom. The cheese slices flew off, and each neighbor grabbed on them. And another drop of mustard landed on our hero, which raised his profile way high above zero. It seemed the old family cat was just seen enough of that. Young Mr. Fritz, the family cat, liked his mice deep, deep in mustard, whether yellow or spicy or even pale as custard. our dear mousy hero, high atop the plate of cheese, directing disbursements according to need. He stood tall and hungry as another drop of mustard began to fall. His attention remained on that cheesiest plate of all. He just waved off the warning to his friend Nate, who was nervous, steadily watching the cat in his nervous state. Okay. Okay, there we go. Next one. The plate, once so stable, had become far too light. Then it tumbled down in a noisy, clattering, nattering, but that was exactly what was the mattering. He could say, cheese on the floor. He had cluttered and fluttered each and every way. The perched cat, who'd been watching through all of that, licked his lips at the tiny mousies below and their cheesy tails and toes. He jumped at the clatter and leapt in the air. He was scared. He got snared. The lacy curtains at the window tangled the fumbling, tumbling kitty in a sight that wasn't pretty. The panicked cat was tangled and dangled high above a sink full of dishes, deep in soapy water bubbles, and was stuck like a fish in a net. Unless he gets free and had some luck, we'll see he might just splash in the sink and get sunk perk plunk. So the Mexican mouse saw that tangled up cat and the predicament he was in and where he was at. So he called all his immigrant neighbors away from their labors. The voles from Venezuela, the Honduran kangaroo cat, some agoutis from the Amazon who still had their guayaberas on. The coatimundi who had just arrived last Sunday, the capybara from Colombia, and a pack of rainforest rodents from Panama, but you know that. The dagoos from Uruguay insisted they wanted to help, and it was just their way. A couple of Patagonian maras, all three oddly enough named Sarah. Some nutrient rats from Guyana, fresh from the sauna. The pacaranas from Chile had already gathered and were willing once they finished their bananas. The mousies and rodents came out of the hat. They climbed the curtain up to where the cat sat, suspended precarious above the suds in the sink. They just couldn't leave him struggling there. What would he think? They tugged and they tangled all to free this one tabby. It was like some lawyer had conned the clauses and were all written, the shabby stuck there in boxes. The cat seemed to object. They were all down from where? They'd all come to free him from his precarious, perilous snare. They'd traveled so far to rescue this cat from his dubious, precarious cradle. He just couldn't get out. He was tangled and mangled. He just wasn't able. They tangled his claws, but he still tried to snag him. They swiped and he swallowed. He just couldn't bag him. He reached for those mice, not out of fear, but from malice. He hoped to put them away in his sharp, toothy palace. You're not even American rodents, not one single one. So why would you help me? What have I done? You were a stuck cat in trouble. We just didn't want you to drop. We knew unless we helped you, your struggles wouldn't stop. You'd end up in the sink all covered in bubbles, in a sink of broken dishes, sharp knives with no end of troubles. Mid the dishes in froth, we wanted to save you from a drop into that soapy, scalding broth. Okay, boom. You clambered over the precarious cat who struggled and wriggled until he knocked off his hat. The hat floated down to the sink, and what do you know? It exposed a sink full of knives, all gleaming with a sparkling glow. He found himself thanking each one of the rodents, even though they weren't American. Then I guess you know that he was just a cat, and he was a Mexican mouse who lived in the house. That's it. Thank you. Okay, it's an immigrant tale, but it's all pink and squiggly. This is my lovely wife, the charming Linda.
Hello, everybody. I just
Hello,
wanted to
charming
welcome-
Linda.
Hello, charming whoever you are.
Linda.
I just wanted everybody to know that today is Rick's birthday.
Yes. Older and wiser, and wiser. Well, thank you all so much. I've got to run. It's been wonderful.
Thanks for letting
Thank
him
you
play
for-
with us.
Happy
Bye-bye.
birthday,
Happy
Rick.
birthday, Richard.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Richard.
friends.
Happy birthday!
Have a great time.
Yay!
Day.
Boom. Okay. And then there were us. Okay. We are ready to go with let's see, let's go with Nike Truth.
Good evening, y'all. I recently got a poem accepted into the Suburban Witch for their issue 10. It is called Inflation, circa 2021. I water this, I water that. I'm wondering where my money's at. Wondering when the stress will pass. Pondering will these bills will pass. I know the stress of bills won't last. So I tend to my tired brown grass. being patient for the green, thinking about what it could all mean. I got faith that things will change, even if my prayers seem hush. It'll sprout flowers one of these days, so I'm in no rush. Thank you.
Congratulations, Suburban Witch. Send us a link when it's out. Or if it's out already, put it in the comments. I'm going to give it over to Jan Rowe.
Is it on? Yes. Okay, this was the one that was in the weekly for the Black Sea Raiders. And James Parker, he's kind of the one that got this started over a decade ago, and he finally got a regular job with the Atlantic. Um, it's called Gratitude, Humor, and Music. I appreciate again James Parker for articulating how humor and gratitude get him through life's difficulties. I am thankful for YouTube and Spotify for ease of accessing music. My computer, iTunes, is so old that the Beatles songs could not even be done by the Beatles. So music helps me remind myself to avoid burnout. I number three, I sing Love Potion number nine. So this is what I'm saying for these people to look it up on Spotify and stuff. So the dubious comfort of the undisputed truth, singing the Temptations. The truth is in the eyes, because the eyes don't lie, my friend. A smile is just a frown turned upside down. So as a half-century friendship ends, so Marshall Tucker's "Can't You See" echoes Smedley Butler's "Can't You See the money you get for ammunitions will be covered in blood. And as time goes on, this blood will be the blood of your own children." So Smedley was in the Marines for 33 years. And he concluded, "War is a racket, a few profit and many pay."
Thank you, Jan. Thank you so much. I'm going to give it over to Bill Lewis.
Well, hello, all you wonderful people. I'm so happy to be back. I mean, I was just in Boston and it was wonderful and I had such a nice time and it was obviously and things like that. And in general, I was really happy and I saw some of you all and we had a good party and did fun things and yeah, so Boston, there it is. And I walked across the common and nobody bothered me. Nobody was begging. Nobody was screaming. There were no, it was just nice people having a good time. And I'm like, holy moly, what has happened? And so I don't know exactly what's going on, but bravo to Mayor Wu. She is up there. She's doing something. Um, I am going into ancient history. Why do I subject you to this? I don't know, but here I am. I didn't write anything new, so I am going to subject you to a reading of where the button that does this. There we go. Wobbly the Robot, written by me in 1981 or 1980, copiously illustrated by some guy that I met at an art studio. And there it is. It's just a silly little thing, but it made me happy, and I'm going to torture you with it now. Ahem. Got to get comfortable, to read famous, soon to be famous work. Quick, Dick, throw the ball, Betsy yelled. Hurry before Spot gets it. Dick threw the small red ball as far as he could, but it wasn't quite far enough to reach Betsy, and Spot caught it in his teeth. That is silly, Betsy. Oh no! Spot caught the ball. Spot wins again, Dick, Betsy said. Now it's your turn to be in the middle, and Spot and I will play keep away from you. That's silly, Betsy. Spot can't throw the ball. Betsy was Dick's bigger sister, and she was always thought up funny things to say. Dick and Betsy liked to play with Spot, who was their little black and white dog. Betsy started running after Spot to try to get the ball back. Spot was always faster than her, so she could never catch him. Betsy would run this way and Spot would run that way. Spot, give me the ball back, Betsy yelled. But Spot was having so much fun and didn't want to stop. Sometimes Spot would wait until Betsy had almost caught him before he turned quickly, like only a little dog can, and run away again. Dick laughed and laughed. He thought it was funny the way Spot could outrun his sister. After a little while, Betsy got tired and sat down. Dick called to Spot. Here, Spot, bring the ball. Come on, Spot. Good Spot. Spot trotted over to Dick and dropped the red ball in front of him and panted, his tongue hanging out. Good dog, Spot, said Dick. Thank you for bringing us the ball. Okay, Betsy, it's your turn to be in the middle. I'm too tired, Dick. I just want to lay here in the grass and rest. Anyway, it's time for dinner, I bet. Oh, Father has a surprise. Dick and Betsy went home to eat dinner. When they got there, Mother was busy setting the table, while Father was in the kitchen fixing the meal. They always liked it when Father cooked, because he never made liver or string beans. Father didn't like them either. Wash your hands and come to the table, said Mother. Father and I have a surprise for you tonight. Oh, goody, they both said. Is it chocolate cake? Asked Dick, because that was his favorite. Uh, 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 uh. Or maybe ice cream, asked Bessie, because that was hers. No, Father, something even better than that. You go wash up and we'll tell you. The two children hurried to the bathroom to wash their hands so they could find out what it was that was so wonderful. Maybe it's both, suggested Dick. I'll bet it's something else, suggested Bessie when they returned to the table. Betsy asked her father where he was going to. He was very surprised. How did you know I was going somewhere, Betsy? He asked. You always seem to know what I'm going to do before I do it. Do you have a secret microphone in my office? Oh, I have my ways, she said. Betsy never liked to give away her secret ways of finding things out, and she was always finding things out that surprised both of her parents. Well, Betsy, said Mother, do you know what I was going to? Oh, yeah, cried Dick. That means you and Daddy are going to fly the airplane? Can we come? Both Dick and Betsy loved to fly with their parents in the little airplane they rented from the local flying club. Oh, yes, Mother. Can we come too? Asked Betsy. I promise to be very good, and I'll watch out for Dick. I'll take very good spot of cover. I'll take care of the. Calm down, said their mother. I expect you to keep those promises, Betsy, but you are not going to go all the way with us. Father and I are going to fly down to visit some clients of his on the way up to Oregon to take some pictures of some land up there. You can't come that far, but we will take you halfway. Only halfway, complained Dick. I won't go all the way. Halfway? Said Betsy. That means you're going to leave with Aunt Jane and Uncle Fred. Oh, goody, I love staying with them. How long do we get to stay? 1 whole week. Your mother and I will tell you all about it, but first let's eat dinner. I worked hard to make a very special meal for Mother. I don't want it to get cold. Now, Betsy, why don't you start with the string beans? So there is the first chapters of this wonderful book, Wobbly the Robot. Wobbly, of course, is going to save the world because he is a cool robot. And back when robots were like real robots, when robots were robots and people were people, and we didn't have this Android garbage going on. So, yeah, there it is. More later.
Thank you. Whoops. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. I think we are left with, as far as our speaking talent, we have Mr. John Wezek.
Thank you. Hey, I'm giving a talk tomorrow around 7 o'clock. This information is in the chat where you can sort of find. You could zoom in if you wanted to. Last time on the Divine Parody, Jonte the poet and Chad, a reformed demon, were in purgatory, which happened to be an MFA program in Madagascar in creative writing, and it's organized in 7 weeks according to the 7 deadly sins. Next morning, the writing students met in a rundown classroom. A weathered sheet of cardboard replaced the glass in one window frame, and pale green paint peeled from the concrete walls. I sat kitty corner from a woman in a sleeveless gray t-shirt. Wire-rimmed glasses magnified her gray eyes, and a few strands of hair frizzed out like frayed insulation from her dark braids. After reading some examples from James Salter and Poppy Bright, Professor Coffee told us to write the kinkiest thing we could possibly imagine. I fiddled with my pen. All I could think about was the woman in the t-shirt, the sweat stain between her breasts, the thin cloth revealing the shape of her nipples, body hair thick as felt under her arms, and how near my moment of climax she'd squeeze her legs together to grip my cock with her powerful pelvic muscles. But I couldn't write that. It was too revealing. My sweaty shirt stuck to the uncomfortable wooden chair as I struggled for hours to come up with something else, something more appropriate. I couldn't think of anything. A few minutes before 5, I scribbled my fantasy down in my blue composition book. A read and critique session took place the following day. Who would like to go first? Professor Coffee looked around the room and pointed to a pale goth woman in black. How about you, Eva? Pass. Very well, Brett. Would you like to share what you've written? A young man with blonde hair styled into 3-inch dreads sauntered to the front of the room with his masterpiece. The waistband of his jeans hung low enough to expose the elastic of his pale blue boxer shorts. What's up? Brett leaned against Professor Coffee's desk and began reading. If my cock could talk, it would tell you you're fine, that it wants you to be mine. If you're into this, why don't you give me a little kiss? Yeah. He continued for what seemed 30 or 40 minutes before raising a fist and ending with, Peace, y'all. Any comments? Professor Coffee asked. Yes, Tyler. A woman in a pink dress put down her raised hand and asked, Can he say that? He just did. Professor Coffee pointed to a white guy in a Malcolm X glasses and a Che Guevara t-shirt. Hampton, I think it's racist the way you appropriated black culture. I see. Professor Coffee put an index finger to his chin. Agnes? It's pronounced Agnay, said the woman I'd fantasized about. I agree with Hampton. Brett can't write about the black experience unless he's lived it. The read and critique continued. Hampton vowed celibacy until there was equality between the sexes, probably not much of a sacrifice in his case. Tyler described how her husband tied her spread eagle with silk scars and dripped hot wax on her nipples. The class pronounced her work honest and daring, as they did Agne's historical piece about fisting Sappho. They labeled my work sexist and exploitative, although Dieter, the German transvestite, seemed sympathetic. The only writer more scorned than me was Clancy, the guy in yellow-tinted aviator glasses who likened a woman's breast to an air-launched cruise missile. By 4 I was ready to pack it in, but we still had one more writer to hear. Chad strolled to the front of the room and withdrew a sheet of paper from the front pocket of his overalls. While he unfolded Agne, Taylor, Dieter, and Eva leaned forward like seals begging their trainer for a fish. It's simple, really, Chad read. You want me and I want you, so let's do it with all the small talk. Go out in the woods and hump like rabbits. That was wonderful, Agne said. Your words are so honest, so direct. She batted her eyelids. So penetrating. Chad blushed. I like it too, Tyler added. While clenching my jaws to keep from screaming, I looked around the room. Ava smiled like a venada. Dieter looked like he'd just eaten a fine meal. Even Clancy seemed pleased. I focused on Professor Coffee, who released his pursed lips and relaxed his wrinkled brow into an expression that said, what the hell? I'm getting paid. And we will continue next week.
Sadly, the Adventures of Action Chad will have to wait. Yes, I'm giving him top billing in my mind.
Ooh, Action Chat, I like that. We're going to use that from now.
Oh no. Let's welcome up for our musical interlude before the penultimate reader, which means the ultimate reader before the real ultimate reader, Mary Jennings. But first, some music from Ethan Mackler. And if you like that, you should see him play a keyboard. I did on Monday. Check out the Controverse open mic, which is Contro Verse, which is every 2 Mondays a month. so far. I think it's the first and third Mondays, depending on holidays.
Second and fourth.
Second and fourth. That's a better idea. And yeah, I like that. Go with it. And some most of the many of the shows are have been uploaded to YouTube as well, founded by the late co-founded, I should say, by the late Jeff Taylor. Up next, to close off the open mic before we get to our beloved feature, our beloved penultimate reader, our closer of the open mic, Mr. James Van Loy.
Thanks, Chad. So I have a poem here called Restless, Restless. I'm one who knows all the facts that no one is supposed to talk about. I've been accumulating them for years, seem like eons now that no one is allowed to ever mention the context that can make some sense out the horror we're all daily subjected to. Multiple mass murder, genocide, actually eraser of whole peoples, torture, rape, and assassination, parading as high technological development in the 21st century, where people keep saying over and over, this can't be happening in the 21st century, can it? But it is, and we're still here, and the stiller we get, the more we feel it, and the more that we feel it, the more we move. Thank you.
Thank you, James. And check out his weekly column at oddballmagazine.com. It's all one thing, a poem column, a poem a week for over 600 weeks and counting. Hopefully the next column's coming up after this week is in my mail inbox now. If not, I'll wait till tomorrow. But anyway, we are going to have more announcements coming up. I want to try and get one more surprise reader in, someone we haven't seen for a long time. But that'll be announced when I can. We have our feature for tonight. And for those of you who are here for the first time, or one person here for the first time, we meet every Wednesday so far from 7 to 9, and hopefully having a live reading soon to mark certain events. Our reader tonight, our special feature, is Mary Jennings. Thank you for accepting tonight's feature. Mary Jennings has read regularly with the Stone Soup Poets since their days at TT the Bears. A job relocation to Western Massachusetts kept her from returning to Stone Soup, except for the occasional visits to her home turf. She has established herself in the poetry scene out in Western Mass, and since the beginning of the pandemic, has become a regular at online open mics. Since her January 22 Stone Soup feature, her work has been published in Meat for Tea, Oddball Magazine, and Exist Otherwise, another online literary journal. That same year, she was appointed to the Chicopee Cultural Council, to which she serves as secretary. She started up the poetry and spoken word series at the Chicopee Public Library, which is now moderated by Don Fisher, hopefully a Stone Soup feature in the future. Mary is putting together her first book of poetry and writing her first mystery novel, which she's going to read with us tonight. But first, I have to finish this introduction and let her talk for once. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together 40, 50 times for Mary Jennings.
Thank you very much, Chad. Okay, thank you. The novel I'm reading from is entitled Ikesville. The title itself is an inside joke with me. And it deals with a 40-year-old cold case of a missing teenager who was totally forgotten in all that time until a chance conversation with one of the old timers in the town with the town sheriff recalls a rather seedy story. It's say it as it is. So anyway, here's the prologue that sets the sets the scene for the town and the story. And there's a title to the prologue called "She Kept Running Them Off the Road." She was a girl who fell through the cracks in all ways, legally, literally, mentally. For over 40 years, she was never reported missing. The inhabitants of Ikesville, a 2-square-mile hamlet in the farming town of Harrington, Massachusetts, either died or dispersed from that time. Just a blip of a memory, inconsequential. The decrepit, sagging Ike's family home, which was crammed with all sorts of collectibles, automobile parts, waste, and a classic 1964 Ford Mustang in the dining room, was where she was held prisoner. She fell through the termite-infested floorboards of the room above the dining room and landed on top of the Mustang. She managed to come out from under the wreckage and found herself outside. Before that repulsive Hulk could find her and lock her up again, story of her life always being locked up because it was what Daddy wanted, she raced across the front yard, managing to glide through all the busted lawn ornaments, rusted farm equipment, and discarded furniture. She headed towards the ranch house across the road, where she knew Mason was. She and Mason consummated their love there, were married there in secret. Mason would keep her safe. He was her savior, her spiritual guide. Why did he leave me with that baboon? Yuck, she thought. This was his house. She knew he would be there. He would be back for her. As she raced across the road, a car came to a screeching halt. She managed to elude that too, but the car spun out of control. The driver of the car stepped out to see if the girl he saw dashing in front of him was under the wheels or flung to the sides of the road. Nothing he saw. He didn't even hear a bump. Praying he wouldn't be leaving behind someone to die. The rattled driver got back into his car, turned himself around, and drove off. The girl was already at the front door, banging on it with her fist. Mason, Mason, I know you're in there. Please let me in. She was sobbing uncontrollably. Mason, you rat bastard, let me in. She would then melt into a pool of forgetfulness and despair. For the next 40 years or so, she would be playing out this brief, humiliating journey like she was on a loop. Ikesville was on a state route, therefore the journey through it had to be endured if they wanted to get to Harrington Center from the east. For over 40 years, the piles of debris remained on the front yard, rotting away, and the Ikes house stood a quarter-mile from the road, continuing to sag and rot. Broken kitchen appliances took up space on the wraparound porch, covering up the windows of the living room. The house was considered uninhabitable. When drivers got the idea that they could dump their mattresses or old furniture on the front yard, a Harrington cop would descend on them, reminding them it was private property, and ordered them to remove what they dumped or face arrest. People got the idea soon enough. Ikesville Motors, the family business down the road from the Ikes house, was a pile of rubble, with weeds growing around it over the years. In 1975, a lone auto mechanic who had no common sense used a cigarette lighter to look inside the car's engine and blew up the place. Ed Ikes collected the insurance and had what cars that survived the blast moved to the fields behind his house. Richard Crosthwaite, his willy-nilly business partner, took care of the remains of the mechanic, as he had no family to claim him. Crosthwaite was always covering for Ikes, and he had no idea where Ikes could be for years. It was Ikes's prerogative that Crosthwaite didn't deserve to know anything. As he was in charge of Ikes's accounts, Crosthwaite knew he had to do what he could to satisfy the taxman. By daylight, Ikesville was an eyesore. By dark, it was a nightmare alternate dimension. No one with sense would drive that route in the early morning hours unless they had a few at the Harrington Lake House and on their way eastward. Then they would dismiss what they saw as them being too loaded to drive, just seeing things. When the stories started to add up about early AM drivers having a spin out, rollover, or just coming to a screeching halt in order to avoid a skimpily dressed girl dashing in front of them, they knew something was out there about the area. Police Chief Radin heard all the stories, and he did not believe in ghosts. Over the decades, he received reports of drivers believing they hit a young girl and finding her not there when they got out to help her. He would just have them booked for DUI and thrown in jail. When a police officer on the graveyard shift claimed he saw the girl himself, Radin had the officer dismissed for having serious psychological issues, making him unemployable for police work. Radin derisively called the non-existent, in his mind, figment, ghost girl. Radin owed a debt of gratitude to Ed Ikes for the information that would drive out what he called the hippie scourge that invaded the fair town of Harrington in the late 1960s, early 1970s. A commune started up by the scapegrace son of the Novotny family, Mason, brought what Radin considered to be an undesirable element to Harrington. Countercultural idealists and back-to-nature rebels. According to Radin and Ikes, it all devolved into orgies and a rape of the land. Mason Novotny, who had a grand plan to build an eco-village, eventually dropped it all to become a rock star with his band Chanticleer. He promised that the millions they would make in record sales and concerts would help build the Solaria community. That didn't work out. Many members got disgusted and dropped out of the commune while they could. The ones who stayed, very few of them, met an unfortunate end. Crosthwaite made financial arrangements for Ikes in absentia, so he was at liberty to sell a few properties in Ikesville to satisfy a long-standing tax bill. The Ikes house was on the verge of being confiscated due to back taxes. Crosthwaite was relatively calm, not having to deal face-to-face with Ikes. It was almost 10 years that he saw neither hide nor hair of Ikes. He could be anywhere in the world. He could still be on the property and no one would notice. He was antisocial as it was. This was in spite of the fact that the Ikes property in the early 1970s was the site of a summer classic car show. Together, Ikes and Crosthwaite pulled out all the stops, bringing in food vendors, carnival games, disc jockeys, and live bands, along with the classic roadsters on loan for display. There were some irregularities, though. Ikes was collecting entrance fees and misreporting what he made, not paying vendors or entertainment. By early 1974, Ikes told Crosthwaite that he was canceling the car shows and that he wanted all advertising pulled. Crosthwaite didn't question why, knew enough not to. He knew that the events were petering out, vendors walking off, unruly behavior by the good old boys. He knew that Ikes would lose interest eventually. The automotive center was losing money, which was why Ikes held the car shows. Then the following year, the automotive center blew up. Ike's made himself scarce, going off to do business in unknown parts. Ike's would continue to pay Crosswaite's fee for managing his properties until he went incommunicado in 2006. In 2015, Crosswaite sold the ranch house across the street and an old grain and feed store that wasn't in business for over 90 years. He tried to get funding to clear away the debris of the automotive shop, but failed. Ike's always said he was going to do something with those properties, but never did. Ike's estranged daughter, Helga Benson, allowed Crosswaite to do as he saw fit with her father's properties and helped set up the Edward Ike's Trust. In case her father was found and passed on, she might get something out of the properties, like a few measly bucks, perhaps, about all they were worth. She knew he mismanaged everything he owned horribly. Her father had taken out a few credit cards in her name and tanked her credit score. Crosswaite dealt with it so she wouldn't have to pay off her father's debts. By the time she found out her father was gone for parts unknown, couldn't be tracked for identity theft and credit fraud. The grain and feed store abutting the Hathaway farm property became Hathaway's General Store. Bettina Hathaway, who worked as a chef at a few Northampton restaurants, took the plunge and opened her own business. The store sold locally crafted items such as body products, designer t-shirts, pottery from Olivia Morningstar Studios, kitchen utensils, spices and herbs, Bettina's own baked goods, and maple syrup from her grandfather's sugar house on the property. There was also a cafe open for breakfast and lunch. The residents of Harrington were happy to find a new gathering place, and there was enough traffic to entice travelers to stop in for a coffee, sandwich, or pastry, whatever they were hungry for. The ranch house was bought by a couple who lived in Bridgeport, Connecticut, sight unseen. It was the husband, Dave DaCosta, who heard of the property online going dirt cheap. Therefore, he decided to jump on it. He was actually the only person interested in it, and Crosswaite was only too eager to upload it. He made no disclosures about the surrounding area, especially the ghastly Ike's homestead across the street and the grassy remains of the automotive shop a quarter mile down the road. He just said the ranch house had good bones and that he had rented it out a few times. Those few times didn't last very long, and Crosswaite thought the vicinity was just too unsightly to live in peacefully. Crosswaite never heard of the accidents and near accidents that occurred on the road outside the ranch house. They happened in the early hours of the morning. Therefore, word would not reach him. The accidents were mainly unreported due to fear of radon or fear they actually hit somebody and drove off, or reported as DUI. Was nothing on Crosswaite or anyone else, unless they were second-guessing themselves about what they saw. A young girl with long brown hair, wearing blue jeans and a skimpy red, white, and blue top, like an American flag. Even in single-digit temperatures, they saw her racing across the street from the Ike's homestead to the abandoned ranch house, her eyes like a deer's eyes in the headlights, as they were in her life. Okay, thank you. 13 minutes, yes. Okay. All right, some old and some new poetry. The ballad of Everything Happens for a Reason. Things of the past. Saints in rags see right through them like ghosts in the night. Heaven-sent virgins unspoiled by age or rage. What lucky man will vie for her pot of honey? Pop open her vagina for a seventh son of a seventh son, and conveniently forget about her when he displays his family pride. She's got a roof over her head. She will have a bright future as a meddlesome nag nobody wants to listen to, possessing knowledge of trivia that serves no one well. Let's revive the beauty pageant for a glorious sight of her thigh. If she can sing and cook as good as she looks, then she has it made. Get the drift? Spot on. We are all stained, married or not, experienced or not. Say hay. Hay is for horses. A horse is a nag. A nag is what they call a woman who is, a nag is what a woman is called who bears the weight of the world on her back and won't shut up about it. Let her reclaim nag for the hours she put in for scant pay. Let her wear her stain like Hester Prynne did and go about her business, making some poor fool suffer. Everything happens for a reason, you say. Rape, pillage, genocide. Got to hold on to what is yours. As if women didn't have something of her own to hold on to that is internal as well as external. Something necessary for the survival of the world. The Ballad of Regret. The fear-driven monster with the angel of mercy posture controls the argument by saying, listen to me or you will regret it. What was lost took years to make. Years you will never get back. The advice was yours to take. What measure would you take to say, sorry, but I disagree with you, and stop holding my hand? Telling the monster no, you will be urged to seek asylum. Only from a distance can you observe the nuclear meltdown without repercussions. Regret is perspective. The Ballad of the Humor-Impaired Woman. She is a pear-shaped woman, ripe for the picking and dumping of mud upon by the two-bit comic, seeking amusement from his humdrum existence. Hey, Miss Snip, why are you so serious? Don't I get a laugh from you? He's read, take a long walk off a short pier right, but he still wants to ride her pride off into the sunset, just because her hormones took a dip, her womb bore no kids. She lives the values she's been taught. Work hard and reap many rewards. Treat others as you want to be treated. But no matter how hard she works and how much she gives, all she gets is a punchline to the story of her life. She's wasted her graces on one who gets his wit from the sewer, which she casts her integrity in, initially pretending to be in awe of her, thus taking her for a fool. For her, it's about the struggle. If she wanted to find humor in it, she would know where to look, not from the two-bit comic, who uses humor to try to shame her for her life choices. She made that choice because the only child she raised was herself, aware early on of denigration, calling it self-love. She's better off alone than to be mismatched with one who wants to grind her to a pulp, like the two-bit comic who couldn't get his wife to laugh at his jokes. Therefore, he tries them out on somebody new with similar results. Unlike the wife, she doesn't live with him and won't keep his house for him. She's no fool there. No man needed to make her honest. She made herself honest, which is what he can't handle. Thus the division he calls humor. The pear-shaped woman bears fruit in other ways and insists you don't let it go to rot. It can nourish you or it can poison you, depending on your constitution. The pear-shaped woman's sense of humor is alive and well. both juicy and dry, tart and sweet. Whatever the situation requires. She just doesn't find you amusing. And now reading uh, from the incantations. A new sacredness abounding. Recede from the creed, from the screed, once declared inviolate from the stir of sin. When the sanctuary is sold, there will be no constraints. No one's taken leave of their senses. There is a new sacredness abounding that is not rooted in scare tactics, that is ascending the stars from the ground up. Soul's enthusiasm. Who would want to dispel this feeling of euphoria other than the holier than thou who sustain an intense suspicion within? They render their flocks insipid and make them repent in advance before sin. If your house be your body or your planet, don't let them in to smash it. No saint sent them to splatter mud upon you. Have trust in your passion and sense of purpose, without the tainted missionaries spoiling the landscape with scapegoating. Your emotion is neither theatrical nor inappropriate hysteria. It is your transport to a higher plane within. And I'm going to wrap it up with your real self, feisty love. Your real self is meant to be feisty and off limits to those who assign you the role of play toy. Stymied they would be that you don't comfort them in their moments of grift and finkery. Don't be mystified when they change face and slam your name, falsely charging you with the rift in their family. You are free to shed the skin they want to keep you in, tethering you, ranking you, anything but thanking you for the love that you are, your real self, feisty love. Thank you.
And with that, is that your moment of triumph? At your close?
That's my close, yes.
That's awesome. Uh, I take it the town you're setting the novel in is a fictional Massachusetts town?
It's a fictional Massachusetts town, yes.
How much real life gossip went into that is what I want to know. You don't have to say what specific facts or rumors, but like how much of a pastiche is it based on things you've heard
Um,
or witnessed?
um, well, it maybe a little bit too much
Fair enough.
because part of it it's a very um, thinly fictionalized version of a of a hill town legend.
I'm intrigued and I hope you get this published.
Thank you.
That is, that was a lot of fun. I love that the murder show is coming back. It's so crazy. It's like everyone's writing a crime novel. Although sadly, the the online journal Tough, which was headed by Rusty Barnes, had to go under. But there's still so much of it out there, and I'm trying to catch up. I swear to God. Even when I went to a poetry reading, one of the people who were there was a pulp writer. They're everywhere now. I love it. And I think we have one or two here on the site. I can't remember. Oh, hi, John. Um, but I am joking. But then there's
Oh,
Harry Tolland, or like the character who writes Harry Tolland, and he's been Harry Tolland, his fictional character, for so long I forget his real name. That's what Facebook does to you, sir. But I
I
can't.
just to say that that I have an open mic for fiction where the readers get 15 minutes to read, but can only read one piece to encourage
The
longer
Gelato East Fiction Open Mic.
Fiction open mic, and Mary Jennings has been here and there and has read from her novel there too, and I hope to hear more of it at the Gelato
You
Fiction
will.
Open.
I'm
Thank you.
hoping this is a start of a good omen because I've actually started writing. I actually wrote and finished my first flagship fiction piece in years. Like I haven't tried to. I've tried to write fiction for like the past 5 years or 3 years, I should say, but I have only finished one thing in that time. It sucked, and I couldn't get it submitted to the anthology in time. But still, I'm excited for the prospects, and I should try out your open mic at some point when I have time. But Sundays are actually my toughest day. But
Hmm.
I hope to. I should go over your videos before they get deleted from Facebook forever, unless you have them on YouTube. But you probably don't transfer them.
No, I didn't transfer them. They're just on Facebook. That's the way.
They're ephemeral. But so that's good too. I noticed that we had someone join us. I feel so bad they just joined us now. Robert Fleming, do you want to do an encore? Otherwise, the department might shut me down for not having a visual poet from Delaware for 6 months.
I'd be delighted.
All right.
Thank you. So I'm going to share my screen. There we go. So good evening. I'm Robert Fleming. I'm a visual poet and digital artist from Lewis, Delaware. And I always do a lot of tests and experiments with digital art. Uh, I just did a test earlier in the week about can you create decent digital art with only two colors that are complementary? And now, because the answer was no, I did another test with four colors. So now I'm going to do a test with blue, orange, white, and black. This was my first image. It's a lot of geometric shapes, which are not typical for me, came out. And then I made it black and white. And then I applied a surrealistic filter. They sort of came out like seahorses, kind of interesting. And then the seahorses turned blue. And then this is more just an abstract. So what I found is that it created a lot of repeat and patterns, which I rarely create. I just submitted for a publication synchronicity that I was having for a call for patterns, but most of my patterns I submitted or images were patterns that occur naturally in nature, not ones I created. So I prefer the patterns that I submitted as opposed to the manufactured patterns. And I think I will end there. So thank you for letting me share my second experiment with digital art this week, where I used four colors.
Thank you so much for stopping by, Robert. Hopefully, we'll see more of you and hear more from you in the weeks to come. And another round of applause to Mary Jennings. I'll be actually, I can do this right now because I have time and I'm the host, so I can do anything I want anyway. I will post the Venmo and the PayPal links for anyone who wants to fund Mary's ongoing novel tell-all mystery play, exposing at least one or two small towns. I do love that kind of I do like that kind of secret tell-all. And so I'm about to post and drop the PayPal and the Venmo links. Boom, they're in the comments, and they'll be reposted tomorrow when I do the video. And the wave photo. Let's pose for the wave photo. That's always exciting. More announcements being made, and hopefully more good news being spread as we move to the end of the year. Friends, stay safe out there. I hope you are well, and we will speak to you at a later date, and hopefully by no later than next Wednesday. Hope to see you all again. Stay safe, take care of yourself, and take care of someone else if you can. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much, and thanks so much again to Mary Jennings. Wonderful, wonderful evening. Can't wait to post the video tomorrow. Take care, everyone, and bye.